This lesson is all about mixed conditionals. It comes from a request by 3 viewers, Shamek, Nihar from Odisha, India, and Olivia Ornelas. Before we start, if you want to request a lesson, just leave a comment. In your comment, tell me your name and I will mention you in the video. Alright, so in this lesson, I will teach you about mixed conditionals in both real and unreal situations. Unreal means imaginary. There are exercises in this lesson for you to understand and practice. Okay, first let's start with the most basic type of conditional, the real conditional. Take a look at this example. If it rains on Saturday, we'll cancel the picnic. So what do you understand by that? Well, you know that there's a picnic planned for Saturday, and if it rains, we cannot go on picnic, so we'll cancel it. This is the most common type of condition. On the condition side, we call it a condition clause. You have if plus the subject plus the verb in the present simple tense. So you have if and it rains, which is present simple. On the result side, in the result clause, you have subject plus will. So we'll cancel or we will cancel picnic. This is called a real conditional. It's also called the first conditional, but the number is not important. What's important is that it talks about a real situation, a situation that is possible. So what about mixed conditionals? Well, the term mixed just means that a sentence is in a different form, not the usual form. So you could say, if it rains on Saturday, we'll have to cancel the picnic. So instead of will plus the main verb, here you have will have to. Or you could say, if it rains on Saturday, could you bring some umbrellas? Or maybe I just saw the weather forecast on the news and I say, how are we going to have a picnic if it rains on Saturday? These are all correct, and there are some examples of mixed real conditionals. Remember, we say that they're mixed because they're not in the common form. Okay, let's do a small exercise with this. Here are some sentences, but I've jumbled them up. Stop the video, try to put them in the right order, then play the video again and check. Alright, number 1 is, if you don't mind, could you speak a little more slowly, please? Number 2 is, if Rob wants to get into a top university, he needs to work harder. And number 3 is, when you leave the house, remember to lock the front door. In conditional sentences, it's always okay to put the if clause last. If you did that, no problem. Okay, notice in number 3, you have when instead of if. The difference is that if means something may happen or it may not happen. So if you leave the house would mean that you may or may not leave the house. But when expresses the idea that you are going to leave the house, I'm sure, and when you leave the house, remember to lock the front door. So you can see here that these are mixed conditionals. They all talk about real situations, but they're in different forms. Let's now move on and talk about unreal conditionals. What do I mean by unreal? Unreal refers to situations that are imaginary. Take these 2 sentences. If I win the lottery, I will quit my job. And if I won the lottery, I would quit my job. You will recognize the first sentence as a real conditional. So imagine that I have bought a lottery ticket and the results are coming out tomorrow. So I have my fingers crossed, I hope I win. And if I win, I'll go into my boss's office and say, I quit. So you have if and present simple in the condition and will in the result. But number 2 is different. It's an unreal or imaginary situation. You have if plus the past tense, I won the lottery, in the condition, and would instead of will in the result. So it means I have no lottery ticket, but I'm dreaming. I'm saying I hate my job. If I won the lottery someday, I would quit. This type of sentence is called the second conditional. It talks about an imaginary situation in the future, like in this sentence, or in the present. For example, if I weren't so busy, I would take a vacation. So it means I cannot take a vacation because I am very busy. Notice that we use were in the second conditional. If the verb is be in the condition clause, we change it to were and not was. That's just a special grammar rule with the second conditional. You can also talk about the past using unreal conditionals. Remember my lottery ticket? Let's say I bought a ticket but I didn't win. So I might say, oh, if I had won the lottery, I would have quit my job. That means I bought a ticket, but when the results came out, I didn't get it. So I'm dreaming, but about the past this time. Or in this next example, if Ramya had told me it was her birthday today, I would have bought her a present. What does that mean? It means it's Ramya's birthday today, but she did not tell me and I didn't know, so I didn't buy her a birthday present. But thinking back to the past, I can say, if she had told me, then I would have got her a present. This is called the third conditional. It's an unreal conditional that talks about the past. You make it with if plus the past perfect tense using had plus the verb in past participle form in the condition and would have in the result. Okay, now that you know these, let's talk about mixed unreal conditionals now. I have some sentences on the screen. The conditions are all in place, but the results are all mixed up. Stop the video, match the conditions to the results, then play the video again and check. Alright, number one is, if Rob had worked harder in school, he could have gotten into a top university. This is a third conditional, meaning it's an unreal conditional that talks about the past. But notice that instead of would, we have could. You can also use might here. You can say he might have gotten into a top university. Number two is, if I had won the lottery, I would be sitting on a beach in Hawaii right now. Here you see that we have a past condition, if I had won the lottery, say yesterday, and then we have a present result. I would be sitting on a beach in Hawaii right now. This means I didn't win the lottery, so I'm not at a beach. So you see that it starts like a third conditional, past condition, but then the result part is like a second condition, present result. Number three is similar. If Renee hadn't yelled at her boss, she would still have a job. So Renee yelled at her boss and she got fired, so she doesn't have a job now. Again, you have a past condition and a present result. Number four is, if Arjun were a smart investor, he wouldn't have bought those worthless shares. Notice here that the condition is in the present, so it says that Arjun is not a smart investor, and then the result talks about something he did in the past. He bought worthless shares. Why did he buy them? Because he's just not smart. Sentence number five is similar. If I didn't have so much homework, I wouldn't have stayed home. I would have gone to the movies with all my friends. So it means I have a lot of homework, so because of that, I was not able to go to the movies. All my friends went, but I had to stay home and do my homework. And finally, number six is, if I hadn't lost my passport, I would be going to the conference in Vienna next week. So I lost my passport, that happened in the past, and the result is in the future. I cannot go to Vienna next week. So these are the most common types of mixed unreal conditionals. There are some other combinations, but they're not so common. The ones that you see on the screen are the most important. Alright, to close this lesson, I want to give you some quick advice on learning and using conditionals. Don't focus so much on the words first, second, third, and mixed. They're useful, but you should be paying attention to real and unreal. If you're talking about a real situation in the present or future, use if plus the present simple tense in the condition. In the result, you can have will, or you can have other words such as could, can, might, or a question. If you're talking about an unreal or imaginary situation, think about the condition first. Is it present or future? Then use the past simple tense. If the condition talks about something in the past, use the past perfect tense. Then think about the result. If the result is in the present or future, use would. If the result is in the past, use would have. Alright, that brings us to the end of this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you in the next lesson.